Well, joining us now from Washington, D.C. is Larry Korb. He's a former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Defense and a senior fellow at the Center for American Progress. Thank you very much for speaking to Al Jazeera, Mr. Korb. The momentum now appears to be on the rebel side, but, how likely do you think these opposition fighters can hold on to a city like Al-Zawia and push their way into Tripoli? We've seen them make gains in the past and then lose it. Do you think it's different this time around?
Well, I think it is, because Gaddafi has been growing weaker ever since, over the last several months. And whereas in the beginning of this conflict he would have been able to hold or even push them out, I think each time you see that he becomes weaker, he's running out of money. A lot of his forces have been destroyed by the NATO and Arab League airstrikes. He's running out of money. He's also running out of supplies because of the blockade. I think if they hold this is the beginning of the end, because there'll be no way for Gaddafi's forces to keep getting resupplied.
Well, the NATO intervention has clearly aided the opposition forces, even if it's taken a long time, some people would say. But how far can NATO keep going? Can this already limited NATO effort go the distance, in your opinion?
Well, I think it can, because the United States is playing a secondary role, but it will not let this operation fail. In other words, if there's problems, for example, with ammunition, the United States will ensure that it has it. If there's problem with refueling, which we've done for now, we're also using our drones to provide intelligence. And I think this is very important, because the drones are going to be able to tell the NATO airstrikes where the Gaddafi forces are. And if they, try and have a pitched battle to hold on to the city, they're going to be able to be targeted from the air. And it's not just the ground forces of the rebels; they have the supporting air from NATO.
All right, but clearly this NATO mission seemed to have changed anyway. Explicitly, its mission was to protect civilians in Libya, but that seems to have changed now to implicitly changing the regime in Tripoli.
Well, it has. I mean, because about a month after the operation started, you had the NATO leaders and President Obama saying, Gaddafi must go. So the mission has really changed. I mean, by protecting civilians, you're basically weakening Gaddafi's military, and you're trying to dry up his financial assets around the world. So really it becomes a distinction without a difference, because you're making Gaddafi weaker in order to protect civilians, and at some point, if NATO doesn't lose its patience, he's going to collapse.
All right. Now, there's a great deal of concern nonetheless about the unity of the opposition. Do they truly have the ability, in your opinion, to achieve their goal of taking down the Gaddafi regime? And is the international community prepared for a post-Gaddafi scenario in Libya that would involve and could involve more instability?
Well, I think that's the key question. I think Gaddafi will go. The question is, what comes next? Who will step in to fill the vacuum, as we've seen with, the murder of one of the, the rebel leaders here in the last week. There is this disunity, and you hope that NATO and the United Nations, which have approved this operation, are planning to send in a stabilization force after the collapse of Gaddafi, have boots on the ground from a neutral nation in order to provide stability and give the Libyan people a chance to take their destiny into their own hands.
Okay, thank you very much for speaking to us. That's Larry Korb, former Assistant Secretary of Defense and Senior Fellow at the Center for American Progress, joining us there live from D.C. Thanks for your time, sir.